The woman who returned my lost wallet didn't want a reward, she only wanted me to look at a single photograph she'd slipped inside. A photograph of me, as a child, standing somewhere I don't remember. I lost my wallet on a Thursday evening, the kind of evening when the world feels heavy for no clear reason. Work had drained me, traffic was loud, and all I wanted was to get home, shower, and forget the day. It wasn't until I stepped inside my apartment that I realized the wallet wasn't in my bag. My heart dropped. ID, cards, some cash, annoying but replaceable. But there was also something else, something private. A picture of 8-year-old me sitting on my dad's shoulders, the only photo I had left after he passed. Losing that felt unforgivable. I retraced every step, the bus stop, the little grocery store, the path near the old library. Nothing. The night swallowed my hope. I told myself someone had already taken it, tossed the rest, and moved on. The next morning, my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, a woman around 60 stood there. Her hair silver, her expression calm but unreadable, like someone carrying a secret just beneath the surface. She held my wallet in both hands with surprising gentleness. "Is this yours?" she asked. Relief flooded me. "Yes. Thank you so much." I was losing my mind. She didn't smile. Instead, she studied my face as if comparing it to something only she could see. "I slipped a photograph inside," she said quietly. "I need you to look at it." My brows tightened. "A photograph? Why?" Her hands trembled slightly as she passed the wallet to me. "Because," she whispered, "it's a picture of you, when you were very small. And I think I might have known you back then." A chill ran through me. I opened the wallet. Inside, behind my ID, was an old, fading photograph. A little boy sitting on a swing. A swing I didn't recognize. But the face, the small, uncertain smile. It was definitely me. I looked up, confused, but the woman's eyes were shimmering with something deeper than nostalgia. Something like regret, or longing. "You don't know me," she said softly. "But once I knew your family." As she spoke, the morning air felt suddenly heavy, filled with a past I never knew existed, and a story I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. Her words echoed in the hallway. "Once I knew your family." I stepped back, gesturing for her to come inside. Something about her tone, steady, almost fragile, made it impossible to turn her away. She walked in slowly, as if the air itself made her cautious. She sat on the edge of the sofa, hands folded tightly in her lap. I sat across from her, holding the photo she'd slipped into my wallet. "I don't remember this," I said, tapping the faded image. "Where was it taken?" Her gaze softened. "At a park on Willow Street. It used to be near where the old bakery stood. It's gone now." I shook my head. "I've never heard of that place." "You wouldn't," she said gently. "Your family left the neighborhood when you were very young." I felt something stir in my chest, a distant, blurry memory of warm sunlight and the smell of fresh bread, but nothing clear enough to hold on to. The woman took a slow breath. "Your father. Daniel, he was a good man." My heart caught. "You knew my dad?" She nodded. "Very well." She wasn't smiling. There wasn't warmth or joy, only a kind of sorrow that felt old, like it had lived in her for years. "How?" I asked. She hesitated, looking toward the window as if afraid of what the sunlight might reveal. "I used to live next door to your family. Your father helped me during a difficult time. He was kind to me when no one else was." Her voice cracked, just slightly. I leaned forward. "Why do you have a picture of me?" The woman reached into her purse and pulled out a small plastic sleeve, filled with more photos. I saw glimpses of myself, running in grass, holding a toy truck, sitting beside a woman I didn't recognize. My breath hitched. "Where did these come from?" They were mine, she whispered. I kept them for years. I always meant to return them, but I didn't know if I had the right. My fingers tightened on the edges of the photograph. The right to what? I murmured. Her eyes lifted to mine, wet, trembling. To tell you, she said, why your family disappeared, and why I never saw you again. A faint, electric fear crept up my spine. Something was wrong. Something had been missing from my childhood, and now a stranger was holding the missing pieces in her hands. Before I could speak, she added softly. I think you deserve to know the truth, even if it comes from someone you don't remember. The living room felt too quiet, as if even the air was holding its breath. I could hear the faint ticking of the wall clock, each second stretching longer than it should. The woman clasped her hands together, knuckles pale. I should start with my name, she said softly. It's Margaret. But, your father used to call me Maggie. The nickname landed with unexpected weight. My father, who rarely opened up to anyone, had given a neighbor a nickname? That didn't feel normal, not for him. Maggie, I repeated, tasting the unfamiliar familiarity. Okay. Why did you have pictures of me? And why do you look like you've been scared to talk about this for years? She smiled faintly, not a happy smile, but the kind someone makes when a memory hurts. Because I'm not just someone who lived next door, she said. Your father and mother, they trusted me with you. More than once. I frowned. My parents weren't the trusting type. That changed, she whispered, after the accident. My heart jumped. What accident? Her eyes widened slightly, as if she realized she had revealed something she wasn't prepared to explain. You were very young, she said. Barely walking. Your mother had been hurt, and your father needed someone to watch you for a few days. I was there. I looked after you as if you were my own. A soft ringing filled my ears, not from the room, but from my memories trying to rip themselves free. A woman's laugh. Warm hands helping me climb a swing. The smell of lavender. Flashes. Pieces. Not enough to form a picture, but enough to make me swallow hard. You remember something, don't you? She asked. Maybe, I whispered. I don't know. It feels like a dream. She nodded. That's how memory works when we're that young. But I held on to those moments. I kept the photos because I thought one day, if our paths crossed again, maybe you'd want them. I studied her face, lined with years, but soft in a way that felt strangely familiar. But then she added, in a trembling voice. Your father left something with me. Something he told me to keep safe. Something meant for you when you were older. My chest tightened. He left something? For me? She hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. Yes. But I didn't return it because... Her breath caught. I was afraid your family would blame me for what happened afterward. My throat dried. What happened? Her whole body went still. That, she said, voice barely above a whisper, is the part of the story I've run from for over 20 years. And the reason I finally returned your wallet is because I saw something recently that tells me you're ready to hear it. I leaned forward, pulse thudding. What did you see? Her answer was barely audible. A face. She paused. Your face, on the news. My heartbeat stumbled. The news? I repeated. Why would I be on the news? Margaret folded her hands tightly, almost protectively, as if bracing for impact. It wasn't anything bad, she said quickly. It was a short segment. They mentioned your name because you helped that elderly man during the bus accident last month. I exhaled slowly. I remembered the incident clearly. The bus had braked suddenly, and an older man had fallen. I had just helped him stand, stayed with him until paramedics arrived. It didn't feel like a big deal. They showed your photo, she continued softly. Only for a moment. But it was enough. Enough for what? I asked. Her eyes glistened. For me to recognize you. You look so much like your father did when he was young, the same eyes. The same way you tilt your head when you're confused. I wasn't sure how to respond. Praise from a stranger felt strange, especially one who seemed to be drowning in her own memories. She reached slowly into her purse again and pulled out a folded paper, yellowed from time, edges soft from years of handling. I've kept this for over 2 decades, she whispered. Your father pressed it into my hand the night before your family left. He said, give this to him when he's old enough to understand. I stared at the paper, my breath catching. Why didn't you give it to me sooner? I asked. Her voice tightened. Because I didn't know where you went. One day your home was full of life. The next morning, gone. No goodbye. No forwarding address. No explanation. A quiet pressure built behind my ribs. We moved because of my father's job, I said slowly. At least that's what they told me. Margaret's mouth curved into a sad smile. That's only part of it. Something in her tone made my skin prickle. What's the other part? I asked carefully. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked around my apartment, the framed photos, the books, the small things that made up my life today. I lowered the letter slightly. Cared about me too much to lie, I repeated under my breath. Margaret's eyes glistened. He wasn't talking about himself, she whispered. He meant me. I looked at her again, really looked. How her eyes trembled but held their shape, how her shoulders carried a weight she seemed afraid to set down. I returned to the letter, reading the next part in silence, but the words carved themselves deeply. Maggie has been through more than anyone should in a lifetime. She lost someone she loved long before we met her. The boy in the swing, the boy she tried to protect, was not you, but someone who looked like you once did. Someone she couldn't save. The room dimmed around me. A cold shiver crawled along my spine. I looked up slowly. You lost someone? A boy who looked like me? Her jaw tightened, just enough for pain to slip through. My son, she whispered. He died when he was about your age in that photograph. Your father, he tried to help me through the grief. Suddenly the layers made sense. Her sorrow. Her hesitation. Her photos of me. You saw your son in me, I said quietly. No, she murmured, shaking her head. I saw hope. A chance to feel joy again. A chance to be useful. To protect someone the way I couldn't protect him. My chest ached, not from fear, but from something gentler, sharper. Grief echoed in her words, but so did love. I looked back at the letter. There was one final line at the bottom, written hurriedly, as if my father knew time was running out. If our past ever finds its way to you, remember this, Maggie saved us once. And now she may be the only one who can save you again. My breath hitched. Save me from what? I whispered. Margaret closed her eyes, just for a moment. Then she opened them with a heaviness that made the room feel colder. From the reason your family disappeared, she said. And the person who was looking for you. The air felt heavier, as if the walls themselves leaned closer to hear what Margaret was about to say. Someone was looking for me? I repeated, my voice low, steady, but inside, a ripple of unease spread. Margaret nodded slowly. Yes. And your parents were terrified of that person finding you. Why? I asked. Who were they? She pressed her lips together, thinking carefully, choosing her words the way someone chooses steps on thin ice. It's complicated, she finally said. And I don't want you to imagine danger where there isn't any now. You're safe. Truly. But back then, things weren't simple. I leaned back slightly, trying to slow the pounding in my chest. Just tell me, I urged gently. I'm old enough now. My dad wrote that letter for a reason. She looked at me with a softness that felt almost maternal. You remind me so much of how he used to be, she said. Brave. Earnest. Always wanting to face things head-on. Her voice drifted for a moment, caught in a memory. Then she continued. There was a woman, Margaret said quietly. Your father's sister. I blinked. My aunt? Yes, she whispered. Your parents never talked about her because she was struggling. Deeply. For years. She and your father had a falling out long before you were born. I frowned. I had never heard of my father having a sister at all. She had a son, Margaret said. A little boy. Just a few months older than you. My breath slowed. She believed, Margaret continued gently, that your parents were supposed to raise her son. Not her. My brows pulled tight. Why would she think that? Margaret looked down at her hands. Because she was not well. She wasn't seeing the world clearly, and she became convinced that your family, especially your father, owed her something. She tried, more than once, to take you along with her son. She wanted the boys to be together, raised under the same roof. Something inside me twisted. So my parents left, I murmured. They didn't want conflict, Margaret said. They didn't want the situation to escalate or become frightening. They simply wanted peace for you. Her voice softened. Your father helped your aunt for years. He wanted her to heal. But when she started visiting unannounced, insisting on taking you both to live with her, they realized they had to quietly step away. A weight settled over me, not danger, not fear. But realization. A secret kept to protect a child too young to understand. So the person looking for me, I said slowly. Stopped looking decades ago, Margaret assured gently. Your aunt received help. She eventually recovered her clarity, but by then, your family had already moved far away. I breathed out, the tension loosening but not disappearing. And why now? I asked. Why bring all of this up after so many years? Margaret looked at the letter on my lap. Because your father wanted you to know your story, not the frightening parts, but the human ones. How hard your parents worked to protect you. How deeply they loved you. Her next words were almost a whisper. And because your aunt, she reached out to me before she passed. My eyes widened. She contacted you? Margaret nodded. She left something. For you. And I've been waiting for the right moment to give it to you. She motioned toward her purse again, this time with something heavier than photos or letters behind her eyes. Something that would shift everything I thought I knew. Margaret reached into her purse with slow, deliberate movements, as if whatever she was about to reveal carried a weight she'd been holding for far too long. Her fingers brushed against something inside, something solid, before she pulled out a small box wrapped in faded floral paper. The edges were worn. The corners soft. It looked like it had been handled with care and hesitation, over and over again. This, she said quietly, was left with me 10 years ago. I stared at the box. 10 years? Why didn't you find me then? I tried, she whispered. I truly did. But your family moved again, and without contact information. I had nowhere to start. She paused. And I needed to be sure you were ready. Your aunt asked me to wait for a sign. A sign? I repeated. Her eyes softened. She said, when he begins to help others the way his father once helped me, give this to him. The bus incident flashed through my mind. Holding the elderly man's hand as he trembled in pain. Giving him my jacket. Staying long after the paramedics arrived. So when you saw me on the news, I murmured. I knew, she said, voice tender. I knew the moment had come. She offered the box, but didn't let go right away, even though her hands trembled. There is no blame inside, she said. Your aunt, she wanted you to know that. She wrote it down. Repeated it, actually. My chest tightened. I had never met the woman, yet she had shaped so much of my early life without me knowing. I gently took the box from Margaret's hands. It was surprisingly light. Do you know what's inside? I asked. She nodded once. A letter. And a key. A key to what? Her face softened with an emotion I couldn't fully read, part grief, part hope. A safe deposit box, she said. Your aunt placed something inside before she passed. Something meant only for you. My breath grew shallow. Did she say what it was? No, Margaret answered, shaking her head. Only that it was connected to the reason she wanted you and her son raised together. Something deep inside me stirred, an old, unshaped curiosity I didn't know I still carried. Your father feared the past, Margaret said softly. Your aunt feared the future. She paused, swallowing. That box might tell you why. I looked down at the delicate floral wrapping, faded but intact, like someone had protected it for years. A letter. A key. A final message from a woman whose name I'd never heard until today. I swallowed hard. Before I open it, I asked, was she okay in the end? I mean, did she find peace? Margaret nodded, her eyes misting. She did, she whispered. She found more peace than she ever thought possible. And her last wish was that you would understand she never meant harm. Only love. In the only way she knew. I held the small box close to my chest, feeling its fragile history settle into my hands. My voice was barely audible. I'm ready. But even as I said it, my heart beat louder, because some truths wait decades for the right moment, and I could feel this one pressing forward, heavy and alive. I set the small floral-wrapped box on the coffee table. Margaret watched silently, her hands folded in her lap, her breathing shallow, as if she was reliving the moment my aunt had entrusted it to her. The paper tore easily. Inside was a simple wooden box, smooth from age, with a faint floral carving on top. It didn't look expensive, just sentimental, the kind of thing someone keeps on a nightstand for years. My fingers hesitated on the clasp. You don't have to read it out loud, Margaret said gently. Take your time. But something told me I should read it aloud, so she could hear my aunt's words again. Maybe so she wouldn't feel alone with them anymore. I opened the box. Inside lay a folded letter, yellowed but neatly sealed, and beneath it, a small silver key with numbers etched into the head, 312B. I lifted the letter first. The handwriting was different from my father's, rounder, softer, almost timid. My aunt's. I unfolded it carefully. To the boy I loved from afar, it began. My breath caught. Margaret's eyes closed, just for a moment, as if those words carried her somewhere else. I continued. I am writing this with a clearer mind than I've had in years. I owe you honesty, and I owe your parents an apology I can never deliver. So I will leave both to you. My heartbeat slowed, deepened. When you were born, I was still grieving my own son. I was not myself. I thought the world had taken something from me, and I believed your father could return it somehow. A soft ache spread through my chest, not anger, not fear, just sadness for a woman who had lived inside her own storms too long. I wanted our boys to grow up side by side, thinking it would heal something inside me. But grief is not healed by replacing what we lose. I see that now. I paused, swallowing hard. Margaret wiped her cheek quietly. The day I tried to leave with you both, your parents were rightfully scared. I understand now what they felt, because I would have felt it too. I wasn't trying to steal you. I was trying to keep love from slipping away from me again. I was wrong. My chest tightened. I felt no anger, only compassion for someone who had lost too much, too fast. Your father was patient with me for years. He helped me more than anyone ever has. And when your family left, I thought it was punishment. It wasn't. It was protection, for you, for their peace, and for my healing. I exhaled slowly. The letter ended softly. The key is to a box I filled long before you were born. Inside are pieces of the family story no one kept track of: photographs, letters, and something that belonged to your father when he was a boy. I saved it because I believed you would need it someday, just as much as I once needed your father's kindness. And then the final line, gentle, fragile. Please forgive the woman I was, and know that the woman I became loved you without ever holding you. I folded the letter back with trembling hands. Margaret looked at me with eyes shining. She wrote that on her best day, Margaret whispered. The day she understood what love actually meant. I held the key between my fingers, the metal warm from my grip. What's inside that box? I asked. Margaret took a long, slow breath. I don't know, she admitted. But your aunt believed it was something your father wanted you to have when the time was right. My voice softened. And the time is now. Margaret nodded. Yes, she said, now, it finally is. The next morning, the sky was a muted gray, soft, calm, as if it understood I wasn't ready for anything loud. I tucked the small silver key into my pocket and headed toward the old brick bank downtown. Margaret had offered to come with me, but I told her I needed to face this part alone. Still, her presence lingered in my mind like a steady hand on my shoulder. The bank was quiet when I arrived. A single security guard nodded politely. A clerk motioned me toward the vault area after I showed her the key. Box 312B, she said, checking a log. Hasn't been opened in more than a decade. My stomach fluttered. A decade of silence sealed in metal. She led me into a small private room with a table, simple, windowless, softly lit. The air smelled faintly of paper and old steel. When she left and the door clicked shut, the room felt impossibly still. I placed the key into the tiny lock. For a second, I hesitated. Not because I was afraid of what I'd find, but because whatever waited inside would carry pieces of people who were gone, my father, my aunt, a chapter of my life I never even knew existed. Then I turned the key. The box slid out with a low whisper. Inside was a stack of envelopes tied with a faded ribbon, a small wooden jewelry box, and a folded piece of fabric that looked like it had been handled often. I reached for the envelopes first. The top one had my father's handwriting. For my sister, keep this safe. I felt a brief ache at the thought of him trusting her even during their complicated years. Underneath were photographs, old, faded, edges curled. My father as a teenager, smiling awkwardly. A young woman who must have been my aunt, holding a baby who wasn't me. A picture of the two siblings together, laughing on a dusty porch. Photos of a childhood my father never talked about. I placed them gently on the table. Next, I lifted the small wooden jewelry box. It rattled lightly. Inside lay a thin silver chain with a tiny charm shaped like a half-moon. There was a note beneath it. The other half was mine. I want you to have his. I swallowed hard. The half-moon charm was worn, smooth, the kind of thing a child might have fiddled with for years. My father's initials were carved softly on the back. The last item in the safe deposit box was the folded fabric. When I lifted it, I realized it was a small quilt square, pastel colors, hand-stitched. A child's name was embroidered in one corner. Not mine. Not my father's. My cousin's, the boy I never met. The stitches were uneven, the fabric frayed. A mother's grief stitched into every thread. At the bottom of the box lay one final envelope. The handwriting was my aunt's. For him, if he ever comes. My pulse steadied, quiet but strong. I opened it. Inside was a single line. Tell him the story he never knew, and remind him that he was always loved, even in the shadows. I closed the envelope slowly. The room felt warmer now, not because of the soft lighting, but because I could feel something settling deep inside me. This wasn't a mystery. This wasn't a warning. This was a map of a family trying to love each other through heartbreak and mistakes. I gathered the items carefully, placing them back in the box. As I walked out of the bank into the gray morning, I realized something. My story didn't begin the day my parents told me it did. It began long before, woven through people who tried, failed, loved clumsily, and loved fiercely. And now, it was finally finding its way home. When I finally calmed down enough to read the journal page again, something clicked, something I had ignored in my anger. Liam didn't write like someone who was escaping me. He wrote like someone who was protecting me. And suddenly, the questions I had shoved down for weeks clawed their way back. Why did he keep avoiding doctor appointments? Why would he sometimes disappear for hours and come back exhausted? Why did his smile look forced in every photo during those last 2 months? I grabbed the envelope again, this time turning it over. There was a smaller note taped to the inside flap, folded so tightly I almost missed it. In shaky handwriting he had written, "If I couldn't tell you the truth while I was here, maybe I can tell you now." My chest tightened. With trembling fingers, I opened it. It wasn't long, barely 4 lines, but the weight of it hit me like a punch. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because loving you was the only thing that still gave me strength. I wanted you to remember me smiling, not fading. Please don't think you weren't enough, you were the only thing that ever was. I covered my mouth as the room spun around me. He wasn't lying about loving me. He was hiding something, something big enough to walk away from the life we built. And suddenly, every bit of anger inside me crumbled. Only one thought remained, sharp and terrifying. What was happening to him that he couldn't tell me? I sat on the edge of the bed, the journal open in my hands, heart hammering like it wanted to escape. Liam's words weren't just a confession, they were a mirror. A mirror showing the love I thought I had lost, the trust one thought had been broken, and the pain he had carried silently, alone. I read the lines again, slower this time. I left because loving you was the only thing that still gave me strength. Strength, he had chosen to protect me by leaving, even though it tore him apart. I could feel his desperation, his care, hidden beneath every word. Tears streamed down my face, not from sadness, but from the weight of understanding. For months, I had blamed myself. For months, I had carried the cold ache of rejection. Now, I realized it wasn't rejection at all, it was love disguised as absence. I whispered his name. Liam. I understand. I didn't know what would come next. I didn't know how to reconcile the grief, the heartbreak, the relief, but for the first time in months, I felt a sense of closure. I folded the journal carefully, placing it back in the envelope. It wasn't just a goodbye anymore, it was a testament. A promise that love, even when silent, never truly fades. For the first time, I allowed myself to smile through the tears. Some stories don't need a perfect ending. Some stories only need honesty, and Liam had finally given me that, even from a distance. I sat by the window, journal in hand, letting the late afternoon sun spill across my lap. Every word Liam had written seemed to hum inside me, vibrating with all the unspoken emotions we had shared in silence. I could feel his presence in the quiet, like a shadow beside me, reminding me that love isn't always loud, it's patient, it waits, it protects, even when you don't realize it. I traced my fingers along the edge of the envelope, thinking about all the months of confusion, anger, and heartache. And yet, here it was, clarity. Understanding. A chance to let go, not because I had forgotten him, but because I finally saw him fully, even in absence. Somehow, grief and relief can exist at the same time. My chest ached and lifted all at once. I whispered a soft thank you to the universe, to Liam, to myself, for surviving, for loving, for learning to forgive both him and me. The sun dipped lower, painting the room gold. I closed the journal, feeling a gentle finality settle over me. Life didn't feel empty anymore. It felt ready. Ready to move forward, carrying the lessons of love and loss as carefully as one carries a fragile glass. I looked at the camera, or at anyone listening to this story, and smiled through tears. Sometimes, the people we think leave us are the ones who protect us the most. Sometimes, love speaks even when silence is all we hear. And sometimes, closure isn't a loud moment, it's quiet, gentle, and exactly what you need to breathe again. If you felt the emotions in this story, please like and subscribe to my channel for more heartfelt tales. Leave a comment sharing what part touched you most. I love reading your thoughts. Every story has a secret, and I can't wait to share the next one with you. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes, the quietest love leaves the loudest mark.